Happy Friday, fifth grade. This is Miss Gibson coming to you with your math for today. So, of course, you guys should have Unit 6, Lesson 29 out in front of you. You should have your math notes so that you can use them for your reference and build on them when we're done with the new lesson. And then, of course, pencil and paper in order to get your work done for today. So, go ahead and get those things out. Awesome. All right. So, you guys are going to look at this PST. It says Miss Pomeroy and Miss Lennon were simplifying expressions. Check out their work below and explain who solved correctly and why. So, of course, you guys need to read through both of their work and then round the lines who solved correctly and why. Go ahead and pause the video and get started. Okay, welcome back. So, looking at the work from Miss Pomeroy and Miss Lennon, who do you guys think solved correctly and why? Well, first, who do you guys think solved correctly? Correct. They both actually solved correctly for their work here. So I want you guys to look at Miss Pomeroy's work first. What strategy did she use to solve correctly in her work? Correct. So Miss Pomeroy used the distributive property. So she multiplied the 5 by the 10 and then the 5 by the 2 and then added the terms together. So you guys realize that when you are using distributive property, you guys are doing the partial terms first, and then adding them back together. So it's just like how we would do for area model when we're decomposing something and then putting it and then adding them all back together. That's basically what Miss Pomeroy did here. And this is why she got to her answer of 60 based off of her work here. Now, Miss Lennon recognized, so this is building off of what we've been working on for the past few weeks, that the parentheses signify a group or that priority, right? So she simplified inside the parentheses first and then multiplied by 5. So this is following our order for simplifying expressions with multiple operations, terms, etc. So this is what we have been working on throughout Unit 6 for Miss Lennon's strategy, whereas Miss Pomeroy's strategy, there she used a distributive property, which is something that you guys have been learning from the past, especially from fourth grade and up, about how to solve these types of problems. So these two ways, distributive property and then recognizing the parentheses first, are both strategies that are legal math moves and can be used interchangeably, okay, with constant terms. So realize where we're starting from here and then how this will continue to build for what we are going to be working on in the days to come. So these are just two strategies again that are both interchangeably used, and you can use either one to solve these types of problems. All right. So we're going to go ahead and take some notes. So this PST was very short. And then after that, we're going to get into guided practice before you guys begin your practice problems for today. So go ahead and get your notes area out, and then we're going to get into some notes now. All right, so your notes for today. You're going to be writing down when you are multiplying a group by a value, you can simplify the group and then multiply, or distribute the multiplication by every term in the group, and then of course add them together and then. Using distributive property and or recognizing that the parentheses are priority when solving expressions are two ways to strategies that can be used to solve the problems. These strategies are legal math moves and can be used interchangeably with constant terms. So then I gave you guys two examples because as we work today, you guys are going to have to do and show both examples as you're working. So I gave you the distributed property way, which was 5 times 10 plus 2. And then, of course, we did 5 times 10 plus 5 times 2, 50 plus 10 equals 60. And then simplify in parentheses group first, because that's considered priority. 5 times 10 plus 2. So 10 plus 2 is 12. 5 times 12 is 60. So go ahead and pause the video and write these notes down. Awesome. Welcome back. So now we are going to get into some guided practice, and then you guys will begin the practice packet for today. So the guided practice is telling us to simplify in two ways. So realize when we are supposed to be simplifying in two ways, you guys need to do both ways when we are working. So for number one, the first way, what is the first way that we can do this in? Distributive property. So my first step would be to do 3 times 6 plus 3 times 5. My next step will be, of course, to solve for the 3 times 6, which is 18, plus 3 times 5, which is 15, which leads me to my final answer of 33. Now, if I were to do this in parentheses first, I know that 6 plus 5 is 11. So in my parentheses, it will be 11. So 3 basically times 11. And then my final answer again, 33. So these are the two ways that you guys can work through this. I did distributed property here where I multiplied the value times each number separately, or solving in the parentheses first and then multiplying it by the value on the outside. All right, let's get to number two. What is the first thing I'm doing for distributed property? Correct. I am doing 6 times 10. And then because my operation in the middle says subtraction, we need to do subtraction here. So it should be 6 times 10 minus 6 times 12. I mean, 6 times 2, sorry. Right? So once we get through that, then now we're going to be solving for what each of these values are, and then we'll be subtracting them in the end. So 6 times 10 is 60 minus 6 times 2, which is 12. My final answer is 48. All right, now let's get into the next one. I am going to do what's in parentheses first. So my first step again is parentheses. So 10 minus 2 is 8, which leads me to do 6 times 8 in this example, which gives me that answer 48. Awesome. This guided practice should be going by quick. You guys should be understanding these. Of course, you can write down these examples because these are only here to help you. All right. Number three for guided practice, my first step again will be to do what's in, well, distributed property. So my first step is going to be separating the two, multiplication. So 5 times 8 plus, because that is the operation that's in the parentheses, 5 times 9. Solving for these two, so 5 times 8 is 40, plus 5 times 9 is 45. My final answer will be what? 85. Okay, now let's get into parentheses first. So 8 plus 9 equals 17. So 5 times 17. Of course, these types of numbers you do not know off the top of your head. That's totally fine. But we do know that 5 times 17, if when you do the math out, is going to equal 85. Now that we are done with guided practice, so we just simplified in two ways, you guys are going to pause the video and get into the practice packet today. It is telling you to simplify each expression in two ways. So you should be doing exactly what we just did for guided practice up here, down here for your work. Okay. Realize also, because number 5 is a little bit tricky, you are only doing the like the distributed property and the what's in parentheses first, clearly with the value that's connected to the parentheses. This plus 12 should be added after you do the work here that's a part of the parentheses. All right. So go ahead and pause the video and get started on the practice packet. All right, so welcome back from doing the practice packet. Let's go through them together. As usual, I'm gonna go horizontally, like 1, 5, 2, 6, instead of going 1 through 4 down and then having to scroll back up to go through 5 through 8. Okay, so we're simplifying each expression in two ways. So as always, we are working two ways just so you guys can get this practice of doing it in the distributed property way and then doing it and simplifying the parentheses first and then working it with the value. So number one, you have 6 times 7 plus 2. So of course, distributed property, 6 times 7 plus 6 times 2 at 42 plus 12 equals 54. Then if we simplified what was in the parentheses first, 7 plus 2 equals 9. So 6 times 9 equals 54. All right. Let's go to number 5. Okay. So we have 3 times 3 plus 4 plus 12. So of course, distributed property is only the value that's connected to right before the parentheses, not what's added on in the end. So 3 times 3 plus 3 times 4 plus 12. So we have 9 plus 12 plus 12 equals 33. Or if we simplify what was in the parentheses first, we have 3 times 7 plus 12, which is 21 plus 12 equals 33. Okay. Number 2, got 8 times 4 plus 12. My distributed property was 8 times 4 plus 8 times 12, which was 32 plus 96 equals 128. And then simplifying parentheses first gives me 16 plus 4 plus 12. So 8 times 16 is 128. Number 6, I have a half times 10 plus 4. So half times 10 plus half times 4. And then this equals 10 over 2, well, 10 halves plus 4 halves. And then, of course, that gives me 5 plus 2 equals 7. Now, if I solve the in parentheses first, it gives me 14. So half times 14, which gives me 14 halves, which is 7. Number 3, 3 times 12 plus 3 times 9 equals 36 plus 27, gives me a final answer of 63. Or if we solve the in parentheses first, it's 21. So 3 times 21 equals 63. Number 7, we have a fourth times 16 plus 12. So we have 1/4 times 16 plus 1/4 times 12, which gives me 16 fourths plus 12 fourths, which is 4 plus 3 equals 7. Okay. And then if we did it in our parentheses first way, we have 1/4 times 28, because 16 plus 12 is 28, which gives me 28 fourths, which equals 7. Number 4, we have 5 times 7 plus 4. So 5 times 7 plus 5 times 4, which is 35 plus 20, which equals 55. Or simplifying the parentheses first is 11. So 5 times 11 is 55. Secret code time. Today, the secret code is black. All right, black. Lastly, number 8, 1/3 times 9 plus 15. So we have 1/3 times 9 plus 1/3 times 15, which is 9/3 plus 15/3, which also gives us closer to one step, which is 3 plus 5, which equals 8. Then if we just solve in parentheses first, 9 plus 15 is 24. So 1/3 times 24, which is 24 thirds, which equals 8. All right. So make sure you guys are doing these both ways. All right. You should be using the guided practice for what we just did. You guys should be using your notes for to help you to solve for both ways, which is distributed property or simplifying parentheses group first, and then making sure clearly this is getting us to the same answer. So this is also why we're doing it the same way, because this is also helping you check your work too. Exit ticket is telling you to solve in two ways. So make sure you're doing that. Also, make sure that when you are looking at the operation, that you are doing those correctly as well. Because sometimes in the parentheses, it doesn't always have you add. So make sure you're paying attention to that. All right. Have a great Friday. We are so close to the end of the school year. We miss and love you all. So keep working hard as we end these last few lessons. Go ahead and get into that exit ticket.